but I didn't know any better, and I was too busy. So I had my hands in a lot of different pots. So just stay focused and only do 1 or 2 properties and have real control and create systems and create processes and have accountability for everything that's going on. So you could really forecast, like, you know, is your projection closing date is going to happen in 5 weeks or 7 weeks or 8 weeks? You know, and the only way you do that is by being focused and not taking on too much.
And I want to piggyback on that, because Next Stage is a very unique investor agent brokerage in and of itself, because it's led by you and Johnny. Johnny, Sid's business partner, is a HUD inspector of 25 years. So this guy brings just an unbelievable level of wealth to the whole situation. But you guys are so focused, like we are, which is why we're so like-minded and we're working so well together, because you are such an educational junkie like I am. You know, and you're all about the systems and the processes and how to put them together, and it's a business. You've bought and sold how many businesses, and you failed and you succeeded. This is a business. There is a time and a place to create that LLC. There is a time, you know, to jump in, but it is a business. It is not a hobby. It is a real fledging business. It has to be treated like a business, and if you don't go into it with that type of a mindset to be able to create the business and work on the business to build the business, you don't want to get into a place where all you are is working in the business. You want to be able to extract yourself out of that so you can develop your business, so you can grow and buy and sell. I have 7 businesses right now, getting ready to buy another one. You know, and how in the world do we do that? It's because we leverage other people's skills, talents, and resources to take on. I just hired an executive assistant for the first time in my life. This means I had to let go of total control over my life, my calendar. I had to let somebody go into my email. I had to let my guard down. How many hours do you think she put in last week on her first week? 40. 40. I still can't believe that she put in 40 hours, and I still haven't even handed over what I'm going to hand over to her. I'm a control freak, you know, and most of us are in this room, and so you as you grow, you're going to need to let go. You're going to need to let go of the control. You're going to need to outsource. You know, and she says, Tammy, what do you hate? Literally, let me take that off your plate. What do you hate? I said, I hate the books. I hate the mail. I hate the mail sitting on my kitchen counter. I don't have time to go through it. I know that sounds stupid, but it's a waste of my time. A total waste of my time. I put it all in a box on Monday morning. Goes right out to her now. She sorts it, she scans it. Every Friday morning at 10 a.m., we sit down and have a meeting. Tammy, this company's bills need to be paid. You need to pay this. You need to go do this. I set up all this online bill pay. Here's your calendar. These are your appointments. This is what you got to go do. Now, all I do this whole week and last week, I have gotten through more emails, more phone calls, and more productive time because I had somebody there dictating to me what I needed to get done instead of literally being in a cloud of clutter. But it took me 15 years to realize that. We're here to help you not have to go there. It's really, really, really powerful. So, any other questions, guys? Come on. I know you got lots of questions. I'm trying to fill in the gaps here, but I know you guys have got questions. Brandon, and then we'll come up here.
Can you kind of just walk through the wholesale process from contractual?
Yes. Yes.
Of the assignment, and then like how deal maker, how do you get paid? Is it upfront or is it closing or?
Great question. Brandon's question was, can we walk through an entire wholesale from beginning to end? So I think probably the two of you would be the best to lead that, right?
Sure. Well, there was a group that we left out in it's called bird dogs. Have you heard that term? Okay, those are people that you have to help. You can only be in so many places at one time, and you develop a relationship with someone or a group of people who can go out and look for properties for you. If they see something, let you know about it. If you're doing it yourself, though, and you can't do it yourself. So it starts with analyzing the area of the market you want to work. So you have to know what area you want to work. You have to get to know it. You have to know what the ARVs are, and that's what the retail values of the properties are, so that you can recognize when you have a potentially have a good deal. So once you've done that and you've done your homework, then it's just a matter of going out and finding who the owners are. So it's a couple ways you can do it. There are REOs, and that way you're going to have to develop a relationship with a good agent. And that's why I said make sure you're dealing with professionals who know what they're doing. Because there's some agents you can go to who have never heard of an investment property and don't know what you're talking about. And they're not going to understand it when you put in a lowball offer and why you're putting a lowball offer in. So deal with the agent that understands working with investors and understands that you might be putting out multiple offers every day. So if you tell them to put 10 offers out one day, they're not going to freak out.
Right. And just to piggyback on that, I mean, it's very important that you know what I call is your backyard. Okay, so what that means is, I mean, know if there's like a Harris Teeter, or if there's a Whole Food, if there's a major new thing that's happening in the community. Because that's going to bring in new type of buyers, it's going to increase the value for the community. If there's a different type of change in the school district, or the zoning have changed, the zip codes have expanded, a lot of those things makes the value go up in the properties as well. So, you know, knowledge is very powerful. So if you're staying in tune with what the government is doing in your local areas, and what the larger developers like Whole Foods or Harris Teeter, or if there's a 100-unit building or 500-unit building about to happen, then you know there's going to be a lot of jobs, a lot of growth in those particular areas. So you want to farm these areas out. So for example, look at Prince George's community right now. So there's a casino that's about to come down there in that Fort Washington area, which is going to bring a lot of wealth, a lot of jobs and so forth. There's also the Walt Disney Hotel that they've been talking about putting down there, okay? And there's also, there's talks right now of a, I think it's Whole Food, or I forget the other, organic store coming in that area as well. Well, all those things is going to bring in a better quality of medium income. It's going to bring in higher income. So if the neighborhood is like an $80,000 neighborhood now, but you know with all these things projected, it's going to go up to the 80,000, going to go up to 120, 150. So know your backyard, know what's going on. So if you live in Arlington or you live in Falls Church, know what's happening here first. Make 1 or 2 deals happen, get some cash, and then start to expand in other areas.
So,
Can I ask a question regarding that? Let's say you are from Arlington, or I grew up in Montgomery County, right? And as a new investor getting started, I couldn't afford Arlington. I couldn't afford Montgomery County. I could barely afford Baltimore. And everybody kept saying, oh, you don't want to go to Baltimore. That's a whole nother world over there. You know, you need to stay away from there. It's block by block. And I kept saying, well, wait a minute. If all these investors are investing there, and they're making money there, so I went up to Baltimore. Now, I love Baltimore. I mean, we got huge properties up there, and Baltimore is the next Prince George's County. It's thriving. The casinos are coming up there. The whole waterfront's being developed, you know, all north with a BRAC and the military realignment. But what Sid is saying is true. No matter, even in your own backyard, your investing market, wherever it is, you have got to zero in on that market and understand what is going on. You know, is Johns Hopkins expanding? How far are you from, you know, downtown where the hospitals are? Where is this property in relation to transportation and the thoroughfares? How close are you, like, to 95 or 495? Are you on the metro? Do you think finding a rehab in this area that's within walking distance of a metro, or biking distance of a metro, do you think that has value?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. You know, I had the privilege last week of sticking my nose into a conversation, I kid you not, to two total strangers up in Baltimore. And one of them happened to be a billionaire. And I ended up sitting down at their table and eating with them. And I had no idea who this guy was. I had no idea what he had. He came to this country in 1973 with nothing. And it was extraordinary meeting him. And he shared to me that he truly is living the American dream. and that right here where we live is the American dream. Right here in the nation's capital, inside of the Beltway and just outside of the Beltway. And he just bought an entire block in Federal Hill. And I actually got to go into the building, and it's 5 storefronts and 10 multi-units, and he bought it. It's a 2.5, he bought it for $1 million. He's already put 200 into it, totally got it turned, probably bringing over 200,000 a year, if not more. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, you know, I've got a 25,000 square foot that I've been wrapped up into for 2 years, trying to get to 200,000 a year, and this, you know, there's always a way to learn. There's always somebody more out there that can take you on the journey. But you got to know your market. Well, this guy's a billionaire, doesn't need money. He told me he doesn't need the money. And he said, I'm up here every day. And I said, you live in Potomac and you're up here in Baltimore every day? I said, why? And you know what he said to me? Because no one is going to manage my asset better than me.
Absolutely.
I'm on the ground, watching every day what is going on. So for those of you that think you can buy sight unseen and have somebody else do all the work for you, go right ahead. For those of you that think that you can put this business on autopilot and that you're going to get rich quick, go for it. But when I have a billionaire standing in front of me, overseeing dust and dirt and 6 crews on a daily basis, driving an hour to an hour and a half one way, overseeing his asset, I learned a very valuable lesson in that moment. It doesn't matter what you have. No one is going to manage your asset the way that you do. So you've got to control your team. It was powerful. It was a very, very powerful lesson for me. So you've got to know your markets no matter where you are.
Right.
No matter where you are.
So going to answer the question. First, decide what market you're going to be in, research that market, know the market. Second, make sure you have your contract. You're going to be a wholesaler. The most important thing is your contract. And the most important part of the contract are your clauses, estate clauses, your contingency clauses, weasel clauses, whatever you want to call them. You want to have the ability to step away from that contract if you cannot find a buyer, or if something comes up with a property that you didn't foresee when you did your initial research. So once your contract is tight, and then the next part is developing relationships, because you're going to have to then sell that contract to somebody. So you've got to start networking and looking for buyers and develop. You know, you're going to have to talk to people, find out, because sometimes you find investors in the most unlikely place. So you're going to have to find people who can buy your contract from you. Go to RIAs, go to meetings, get online.
Stick your noses into conversation.
Stick your noses into conversation. But the biggest thing that you're going to have to overcome is fee. So if you're starting out as a wholesaler, your contract should be the thing that mitigates your fee. That contract allows you to tie a property up and walk away. As a matter of fact, I've been doing a 2-week session with a newbie wholesaler. And he had a property in Baltimore that he was trying to get in the contract. And he was at a stage where they're about ready to sign and thinking it was okay. And he said to me, should I send them the contract? I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, we've negotiated everything. Should I show it with the contract, or should I send the contract to them via email? And I was like, really doesn't make a difference, because you want to know if you have a good deal, go ahead and send the contract to them via email, because if they have a question about your offer, it'll come up right then. You'll know immediately if there are any issues, as opposed to you driving all the way to Baltimore and then presenting a contract to them and then them not accepting the terms, and you got to renegotiate everything. So it was just his fear. He could, I mean, it was like for an hour, he called me back. You sure? Yeah, he's like, you sure it's a send? I was like, what? I said, hit send. And I
probably afraid of what the response was going to be on the other side.
Right, he was afraid of what the response was going to be on the other. He got a positive response. This particular deal he thought was dead. He thought the deal was dead. And what kept it alive was him not being afraid to send them a contract. Okay. Now, they're in the next stage of him going in and getting that contract done and being able to put it out to his network that he's developed. But the send, it was like hit send. You called me 3 times. It's like hit send and find out later on, you know. So overcoming the fear, your contract, make sure that's tight, networking, knowing your neighborhood. That's the basic parts of it. And again, so in real estate investing is like art. There's a science to it, it's like art. It's you know, someone can tell you the 10 steps to do it, and you'll find out that there were 15. Okay.
And you know, Johnny said something. I mean Johnny. I got Johnny on the brain. Fred said something earlier that is very powerful to wholesaling, and that is a buyer's list. Okay, because a really powerful wholesaler also, and that's why I feel, honestly, wholesaling is very difficult to do, because you were taught that it's very, very easy to do. It's very lucrative. Okay, it is a exit strategy. But most gurus teach that wholesaling is the simplest thing to do. It's the first thing to get into. I personally disagree. I think it is a great strategy. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. Wholesaling is awesome. You need to know how to do it, okay? But as a new person who's green, you have to have two things going on. You have to be in the field finding the deals and putting them together, as Lacey's talking about, and simultaneously marketing for that end buyer, creating and building that buyer's list. That takes time. I wish Paul, I wish little Paul was here.
I got all that.
Yeah.
I just want to know how it plays out contractually to close it. That's the part.
Okay, be more specific, because I want to make sure we get your question answered.
Okay,
When you say
so,
plays out contractually and
okay,
closing.
so you write your contract, you're going to put, this is,
Sid, will
you
you
found a
take
buyer. Okay, so you have a buyer in place. Let's assume that. So then you're going to sign the contract. Walk me through that step. Sure, like, I just want to know how that plays out. Like, okay, so
how do you get your fee?
right.
Okay, all right, I
you
got
get paid.
it. Do you get what he,
Double closings or something?
Right.
Sid, do you get what he's asking?
Yeah, how do you get your check?
Basically.
Basically,
Right.
right. So I mean, like, you know, you have double closing, you can do like, I'm sorry, I didn't get you. Cheryl, like Cheryl said, you can do double closings, or you can do transactional funding.
Okay, now, can I stop you? Do you know what a double close is? Does anybody in the room here not know what a double close is? Okay, Sid?
Okay, so a double close is, so let's say that I got a property under wholesale, and he's the end buyer, he's gonna buy it, right? So I have to go to settlement with him. I gotta go to closing, so I gotta pay the settlement. I'm sorry, let's say he's the homeowner, and I go to settlement with the homeowner. Let's say he's the one I'm gonna sell it to. So I gotta settle with him first, pay the settlement fees, go to closing, and then turn around again,
Come right over to me.
and then go to settlement once again.
In other words, he's gonna do them at 11 o'clock,
Right,
probably 12 o'clock, I show up,
right.
we close. That's the double.
Now that's two fees.
Coming from, okay, so.
So I would have to pay settlement fees when I settle with him, subject A, and then subject B, I would have paid another settlement fees.
But the assignment fee is coming from the buyer, correct?
No. What we just described was a double close.
Double close.
So when you're doing a wholesale, one of the exit strategies is a double close. Okay, where you would have to close twice. 2 sets of fees, 2 closings, 2 transactions, 2 sets of transfers, everything. But
And the
when
benefit of that is?
it's legal, because if
No, but the actual benefit of
So,
that, what would you do?
I can
Why would
answer,
you do
I
that?
can answer.
Go ahead.
So, some jurisdictions and some banks will not allow you to do a traditional transaction. So you have to close in order to complete that transaction, and then you get paid on the second transaction.
Right.
So-
They used to be called tabletop closings, and that's where equity stripping and all of that was coming along. Because investor A would come in, say that they were gonna buy their house, rescue their house, save their house when all the foreclosures were coming on, and then, everything was happening on the tabletop, and before you know it, the person's left, the mortgages were never paid, it was just a mess. So the title companies all tightened down,
Right.
and they said that, you had to do a back-to-back double close.
Right. So the 3 types of general wholesale transactions are where you get paid. There's the assignment, where I'm assigning it, and it's allowed to be assigned, and you have to make sure that language is in your contract, okay? Some realtors will give you a hard time about that, but it can be put in a contract. As a matter of fact, I think they just changed the PG contract to allow that
Yeah.
assignment thing in it, right? So there's an assignment, where you get an assignment, and there's an assignment fee. Go to closing. There's sometimes you have to do a double closing. We have to completely close on the one transaction, and then the sale price for your new buyer is higher, and there's your fee there. So if I bought it from Sid for $110, I'm selling it to Fred for $120. I just made $10,000 between that transaction, but then get your fees and stuff that have to be paid in there. And you wanna make sure that your end buyer is paying those fees and taking care of those fees for you. So it's your wholesale fee, plus my contract says to him, you're also paying the closing costs. Okay, and that's gonna be negotiable, because sometimes, you know, Fred may be very savvy and say, I'm not paying any closing costs, I'm giving you $10,000. So that part's negotiable. So you have your wholesale fee contract, and if you do a double close, you gotta make sure those fees are taken care of.
But if I'm getting a lot of money out of it, I'm giving you the closing.
Right.
At the double closing, though, is it ever does the issue come up that the end buyer finds out what you purchased it for?
That's, so I'll get to that. So let me do the other way to do it, and I will answer that other question. The other way to do it is to strike an LLC and have someone buy into your LLC. I just did a deal like that. Brian was involved in a $10,000 transaction fee for me to buy the person's LLC. They made $10,000. They never went to closing. I didn't see them at closing. We went to closing on the deal. They were paid already. So
I think with it, you're not in the same room. Like them two gonna be in the room. I'm not there yet. My closing is at 12 o'clock, so I'm not showing up. If I show up a little bit early, I'm sitting outside. They in the room. I don't know what's going on in that room. When they come out the room, okay, it's time for mine to start. If he happen to go back in the room, okay, all right, okay. I'm going by my home. So I'm pretty much never gonna know that he just got the property for 10,000, now he's selling it to me for 90. I'm not gonna know that.
But it shouldn't matter anyway.
It should
But let me answer that
It's all
question,
about
because-
disclosure.
But hold on, that's a very, very important point, because that's also one of the issues this newbie was talking about. And I've talked to newbie wholesalers about this 1,000 times. Guess what? There's something called the internet, and when you finish doing that transaction, 60, 90 days later on, they're going to know what you tied that property up for. So guess what? Because it's about relationships, disclose it. If they're gonna do the deal with you, they're gonna do the deal with you. If they're not gonna do the deal with you because how much you end up getting on the contract for,
It's a business.
guess what I would say to them? I'm a business person, I'm trying to make money just like you are.
But yeah, a lot of people get stuck on the dollar, like what they're gonna profit, and I don't want them to know I'm gonna be making 20,000. Here's the bottom line, the core of it all. Brandon, you just solved that seller's problem.
Right.
And if you can show that seller, you know, Mr. Seller, if I can buy your house for X and get you over to California where you wanna go, and I'm able to quickly turn it, and I make 10 or 15,000, because I have a family too, you know, I have bills and I have kids to pay and college tuition and other payments too, you know, this is how I make my living, you know, I probably will make a little bit of a profit there. Guess what they say? I don't care, go for it, hope you make as much as you can.
Right.
You're solving their problem, and that's the focus. Another way you can get, and I've seen it happen this way too, is you assign the paper and they fulfill the closing and they pay you the wholesale fee up front.
Right.
And you just assign.
And that's the best way to get it done. And that's the best way to get it done. I would save that for last. That's the best way to get it done. Because that's simple, that's clean,
It's just not
it's
always
done.
that sweet, it's just not always that simple though.
Right.
Some people won't do it. They wanna keep you locked into the deal until the very end,
Right.
you know, cause they don't wanna pay you unless they know for a fact they're going to settlement.
Right.
You know, and the problem with that is you may have done all your work, they screw it up,
Right.
you
That's
know?
correct. So you want to
So-
get paid for your work when you can. So now, having that on the table, so it's about the relationships you develop with your end buyers. So if you're concerned about that, you want to make sure that you're developing a relationship with end buyers who don't care how much you make. So you want to have that conversation. The questions you want to ask your end buyers, your cash buyers or whatever kind of people that you're dealing with, you want to ask them a few questions.
Did that help, Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
does that help a little bit? Okay, and your name?
Jeremy,
Jeremy had a question.
if you had the funds to fund a deal, is there a reason why you go ahead and use a hard money lender anyway?
The question was if you personally had the funds?
Yeah.
If you personally had the funds, would you go ahead and use another source of funding? That is a great
It is a good
question.
And I have
Oh.
a question for that.
All right, Fred, did you hear the question? All right, so you need to answer, and Sid, you need to answer. I want to hear this.
Never play with your own money.
Oh, yes.
Why? You gambling with your money. You lose, that's your. I got $10. I'm gonna take a chance over here and buy something in this machine. It may work or may not work. get $10 from me, give me $10. Play with your money. If it don't work, okay. But you don't want to play with your money. Now you can use your money. When you go to a hard money lender, you can now use your money to do something else you might want to do with it. You see what I'm saying? So the deal, let's say the deal, you get it for $20,000, $40,000, and you want to put 20 in it. Okay. Well, yeah, you might want to take 20 if you wanted to, but I wouldn't. I would use all the hard money deal, all of it, because you're just doing it. You still got your money right over here. You're just doing. You're going to make some money, so now you don't have to make as much. Why? Because you got your money over here. When you tie your money up, you trying to get every dime out of it. Now you press. I ain't letting this property go because I got to get this amount. Because you put your money in. No, put your money in there.
And God
Yeah,
forbid
just-
something happens.
Just to piggyback on that, I mean, I agree with what he's saying. You always want to use other people's money as much as you can. But also, if you're sitting on $100 million,
Well, that's different.
you know what I mean?
Just so happened to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're sitting on a lot of money and you could afford to put $100,000 into a deal and not have to incur that $20,000 fee deal with the hard money, and you could afford to do that and you still have enough cushion, then I would use my cash. It really depends on the
Do
situation.
you got 100 million?
So Fred and I have recently been talking, and Fred will hear me use a word, and if you have a good credit profile, meaning you've got assets, good score, and you have income, you need those three things.
Reserves.
Well, and also reserves. So your profile is good. You gotta do a profile. So it's not just your score. It's not just your income. It's not just your assets. So you have to understand all those things. But if you have those and you have the cash, okay, there's some deals you may do with the cash because it makes sense. But typically, generally you want to use other people's money because you get to do more deals. So if you have $20,000, you can do two $20,000 deals as opposed to only one. But if you're first starting out and there's some fear there, you know, and you want it, but you're more nervous when you use your own money.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Because I haven't heard literally, I mean, I learn every day. You guys just said 4 things that are really, really important, and I haven't heard those 4 things said like that before in all these years. Can you repeat them? You said it's not just your credit score.
Right, correct.
So it's your FICO.
Right, it's your FICO
right?
score.
And so let's go to Fred. So Fred, if I come to you, and whatever, it's an investor loan or an FHA loan, right? And I got a 780, I got an 820, I'm golden. And Fred says, no you're not, because your loan's denied. And you're like, well wait, what do you mean my loan's denied? I got an 820. Well, no, because you don't have these other things. So I've never heard it put that way. This is fascinating. So what are those things? Your FICO?
It makes it easy. It's your score.
Okay, so
You
your
got
FICO.
you got a 700 score. I'm looking at you totally different. You just, ooh, thank you, Lord. Thank you. You got a good job. Oh my goodness. Okay, you're a government employee or something. You've been working for a long time. I'm like, thank you, Lord. Then you got good reserves, meaning that you got money put away. Oh Lord, he said. 4th, I can show your money. I can show a bank a statement and show this money. Oh. See, I'm happy. Everybody got money, don't show money.
Right.
They sitting on 100 million, but their bank statement show they got $500. But they telling me they got 100 million. I'm like, I gotta see it. Where is it at? When you get them all together, and I put that, and I send that file in, I guarantee you, that file staying in underwriting approximately 20 seconds. Go, boom, approved, done. Income, your ratios. I don't have to worry about one because you got good income. I don't have, this is your first time buying a home. Don't have to worry about the debt to your career. You got money reserves. If you lose your job today or tomorrow, you got 100 million sitting over here. I know you're gonna pay that mortgage. That's what the underwriter look at. The underwriter wants to know if for any reason you lose your job or can't work, how is that mortgage getting paid? I'm sorry you lost your job, but how you paying that? I got good reserves. They look at your bank